Welcome to the Core Women Podcast, the place for women entrepreneurs, authors, and self-starters looking to build community and gain valuable insight through expert interviews with women at the top of their game. Join your host, podcaster, producer, expert coach, entrepreneur, and author, Dr. Summer Watson, as she aims to inspire and empower you through these candid conversations. Lean in and embrace the journey. It's time to start the show. Here's your host, Dr. Summer Watson.
Today on the show, I'd like to welcome the incredible Aria Leighty, who is an award-winning entrepreneur, podcast host, creative consultant, and visibility strategist. Aria was on the Core Women podcast in 2019, and there have been a lot of changes in her life since then. Let's get right into this, my friend, and welcome.
Hello, 2019. Wow, that was like a lifetime ago.
I know, especially for you and all the things that you have done. And we are going to get into that. But before we dive into your professional aspects of your journey, describe your journey thus far in one word.
One word. I would have to say messy.
Woo.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Well, I love messy. I know that a lot of people might be like, ugh, when they hear that word, but I mean, it has been messy. It's been a lot of just kind of figuring it out as I go. One of my first businesses ever was owning a brick and mortar art studio, and it was process-based art. And I would always tell people, like, not afraid to get a little bit messy. Like, that's when the art comes out, you know, that's when, like, shake the glitter and pour the paint and get really into the process. And I would say that that's been what my entrepreneurial journey has been also, is that process-based art where I've thrown a lot of different materials around and it's gotten crazy, but I mean, it's a masterpiece at the end of the day. So
yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. You have created a lot of masterpieces throughout the years. Now, let's talk about what's been going on since 2019. Fill us in.
Who was I in 2019? Maybe I should have listened to that episode to be like, what was I even up to? Well, I do know that the last time that we talked, I was the founder and CEO of the Mob Nation, and that's probably what I was representing, because that was my whole life for a decade. And that was the National Alliance of Mom-Owned Businesses. That's how we actually connected and met. And I remember getting your books out to all of our people.
Yes.
Yeah, but I actually sold the Mob Nation in July of 2022. And if you ever want to see all the places that you need to heal, then sell a business that you ran for a decade, because it has all, I mean, that's part of the mess, is a lot of the healing that needed and grieving and mourning that came with selling a business. Like, yes, it was for the positive on all sides, you know, it's the new owner is bringing it into a new season, but there's so many identity shifts. Like, who am I outside of this business and outside of this mission and movement that I've poured 10 years of my life into? And I started the Mob when my daughter was in kindergarten. Now she's a senior in high school. So it's like, it all kind of came to this like full circle.
Yes.
So many life changes, just nonstop, like existential crises from July to this recording. So yeah, it's been, see the mess.
Yeah. Well, it might be very tangential in nature, but it's a beautiful mess, right?
Yes.
It's something that glittered. You threw the glitter on, you threw the paint. You did it, sister. So I just want to
thank you.
I totally understand making those shifts and those transitions can be difficult. It can almost feel like a loss, and yet a success at the same time, because you were and are continuing to transition. And so now, great segue.
Professional at work, everybody.
I'm including you in that. So thank you for helping me with that. You are now a visibility strategist, and maybe always have been. What does a visibility strategist do? What is the one most important piece of advice you can give other entrepreneurs as a visibility strategist?
Yes. So I love to work with creatives and just visionaries that are really trailblazing and disrupting their industry. So what I do as a visibility strategist is we look at your magic and your mission and your message, and we see how to get that out into the world. And that can look different from, traditional PR. It can be anything from like aligned collaborations, getting on more podcast interviews, doing really intentional pop-ups if you are a product-based brand. So it's really figuring out the best ways to get your brand and, most importantly, the founder visible, get their message out into the world, and create a way to really, I call myself a brand explosion strategist, because the idea is like, we find your magic. Now, how do we blow it up and just like get everybody out in the world completely obsessed with this and, on board?
Oh my gosh, that is awesome.
Thank you. And my advice is everybody has magic. Everybody has something that they're doing that's completely unique to what everybody else is doing. It's your approach, and it's really combining like your life experience, all your failures, all your wins, the things that you've seen kind of go wrong in your industry. You're putting it all together, and you have this very unique approach. A lot of us hide it because we're trying so hard to look like everybody else, even if it's subconsciously, right? We're trying to like fit in. It can feel very isolating and scary to go against the grain or push against the status quo, Yeah. So I would say to really tap into that more. And we have enough of this one concept of success and abundance that is constantly being fed to us, and this narrative of what it looks like to deserve a seat at the table. Mm-hmm. So the more that we can all be visible, the more that we can all go share our story, to talk openly about the messy parts behind the scenes, to, disrupt these different spaces, then we can start to shift that to where there's all these other concepts of success being shown there. We can be able to show what's possible for the other people watching, because we live in a world where there's so much gatekeeping, right? Like these systems were put in place for a reason to keep the few in power in power. Yeah. And so they don't want us out there being visible and being seen and sharing our story. They don't want us to think that we're even worthy of being out there talking about it. So I would say, rebel, get out there, get your story, get your brand, get your purpose and your mission out there to the world.
Bravo. I love it all. You mentioned so many things here. We are, as humans, different in the way we function, process, approach things, our personalities. We can be nonlinear. We don't have to be one way. So I love what you call yourself. A brand explosion strategist. Boom!
Yes, boom! I'll blow it up, baby.
And she does. She absolutely does. You are a success every single day. Thank you for that description of what you do and a tip to walk away with. That is so important. Now, I'm going to jump into my next question. You are also the host of the Glitter Mindset podcast. Tell us more about your podcast.
Yes. So Glitter Mindset, it kind of goes back to that idea of that first business. And when I really fell in love with glitter, I used to be called the Glitter Queen because I would order 30 pounds of glitter per month for my studios. Yeah, I had 3 locations. So we were going through a lot. It was like a trail of sparkle leading up to the door. Wow. And when I started really getting into a lot of mindset work, because that is a very important part of what I do in all of my different, jobs and titles, is a lot of mindset work. So a glitter mindset is just that, like not being afraid to take up space, not being afraid to be seen. It's getting everywhere. It leaves a trail of sparkle. Like if you have a glitter mindset, you are leaving sparkle around the world, everywhere you go. And then also it's not afraid to get messy. Like that is how it all kind of ties together, so that it's really just about showing the fuck up in the world, not being scared, not holding back. And so glitter mindset really brings a lot of that to the table. And then I bring a lot of guests on that are doing that work or helping you get your story out there, whether it's, knowing how to publish a book or knowing how to, I've had stylists on, I've had people that talk about messaging. So it's really just a podcast for you to go listen to, go get some really inspirational nuggets and get ready to take on the freaking world.
I love it. One of the things that you had said, which would be a great tagline, a trail of sparkle leading to the door.
Yes.
I love that because, as you said, in whatever we do, we leave sparkle everywhere in this world.
Yes.
I think sometimes we talk about this concept of getting stuck and not feeling worthy and getting in the way of ourselves. And yet we forget about everything that we are, everything that we do, we leave sparkle, whether it's a messy sparkle, whether it's a and everything is wisdom and a learned experience. So I think that's something that you share with us is that you threw the sparkle out there. And whether it was a little messy, whether it was more defined, whether it was more linear, you did it. You had the courage to do it. What would you say? Where did that come from? Where did that courage come from? How did that build internally in you?
I have always been just this, I almost want to call it like naive. Like when I started my first business, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go into a lease. I'm going to start this business. I'm going to put all my savings in there. It's just like, I've always just been like, oh, if I want to go do it, I'm going to do it and figure it out as I go. I don't know. I've always been like that as a kid where it's like, I have this idea and instantly I'm going to go put it into practice. And, obviously that has been a beautiful thing. It's also gotten me in a lot of trouble throughout my, throughout my life where I'm like, yeah, of course I'm going to go get another lease. Ooh, I like the second location. Of course I'm going to open up another one, And so a lot of people will always be like, oh my gosh, like, how did you do that? And it's like, I just didn't have that filter in my brain that was like, well, think about all these risks or think about all these things that might happen. And it's always just been like, if there's a calling on my heart, it's meant for me to be the one that goes out and executes it.
Right.
And so just following that constantly. And then as the years have gone on, I've learned to take a step back and look at some other things and bring some balance into it and not be, just so crazy to jump right in. Yeah. But I've always had that spirit in me where it's like, if I see it, nothing is off limits to me. Nothing. Like if I can think about it, like people say, oh, if you can dream it, you can do it. And that might be cliche, but honestly, because like your dreams have nothing to do with my dreams, right? And they're on your heart for a reason. There would be no reason why that would drop into your soul, into your heart, into your mind if you weren't meant to carry it out. And sometimes it's only meant to carry out in a season, right? So we can like look at different things and be like, oh, that was a failure, but was it? I mean, we brought it to life. It lived out there in the world. We did that thing, we answered the call of our heart. So that's never, to me, a failure.
Absolutely. Those are such wise words. I love how you approach things and how if you have an idea, put it out there into the world.
Yeah.
Develop it. Don't fear the unknown. And you've taken risk and you've overcome that fear, or you've worked within that fear to take the jump, to take the leap into, I'm going to try something new. So that's really exciting to hear. I love it because a lot of times you see people kind of holding back and saying, there's too much risk. And so they end up not going for their dreams.
Yeah. A lot of people are so like paralyzed by that fear of either it failing or even it succeeding. Like I see a lot of people where they won't jump into it because they're like, oh, what will that mean about me if this brilliant idea that I have takes off, And it goes back again to like not feeling worthy enough to carry something out. It's all related. But again, I mean, when you were listening to this podcast, you thought instantly of that thing. The book dropped into you, like you got that pit in your stomach. You're like, ugh, she's talking about my course, or she's talking about me quitting my job and like going on tour as a musician. But whatever that thing is, that's what I'm talking about. And you need to go do it. Like just channel some 2011 Aria Leighty and just be like, you know what? Yeah. The universe is going to open up the doors to make this possible.
Absolutely. I love that. Channel that 2011 Aria.
She was going for it. You couldn't tell her nothing. She was like, yeah, of course I'm going to go do this. I have the idea.
I love it. And something else that you mentioned, which I think is super important, is taking an idea from ideating into practice.
Yes.
And I think that sometimes a lot of people get stuck in that, I'm going to think about it and ideate this and mull over this. And yet that bridge to practice or put that into the world looks different, or they don't know how.
Yeah.
So I love that you help people do that. Take it from ideating into practice. It is so important, really. Those first steps, those second steps, those can be really important. And that's where the process is different. And that's where you can really help, is bringing in that person's process, their personality, things that they're actually going to apply and do to make that dream work, right?
Yeah.
Because if I say to somebody, okay, here's your template. Now, follow that template exactly.
Right. Gosh.
It's not going to work.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's enough of that. We already have enough people, copying templates or lip syncing on reels over somebody else's content. Like we have enough of that BS. Like just figure out how you want to do it. And when I was doing all of these crazy things, there weren't a lot of mentors out there. There wasn't accessible information. YouTube wasn't the amazing university that it is right now. Like I'm a graduate and continued student of YouTube University. It is all there. There's not one thing that you can be like, oh, well, I'm stopping because of this. There's a resource for it. Like Google it, go to YouTube, find a mentor that's already, walked the walk. Can you do it without it? Yeah, but I will tell you that I learned a lot. Yes. In that time of just kind of like falling on my ass and seeing what sticks. Like there are so many resources. There are so many coaches and mentors and consultants out there that want to help you on this journey. Like stop sleeping on it. There's no excuse. There's a resource for everything.
Absolutely. Bravo to that. Now, I love everything you've said here. We've covered so much, but as we come to the close of the interview, my last question is, if you were to leave the listeners with some words of wisdom, what would they be?
Start now with what you have. Don't wait until you take one more course or do one more thing or get one more degree. Like start now. It goes back to that mess. Expand and evolve in front of your audience. Like allow them to go on the journey with you. That is how you make a brand where people are just obsessed and, following you to the ends of the earth, and whatever it is that you're doing, they want a part of. It's just like letting people in and letting people witness your expansion. You have enough resources and knowledge now, and you're going to learn so much by just getting it out there, like you had said, into practice and learning as you go.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aria, for joining me on the Core Women podcast again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
It's always such a pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you. If you ever do something, which I know you will, again, and you want to come on here, you're welcome. So thank you so much.
I actually have a gift for the listeners.
You do?
Yeah. It's something that popped in actually. So if you have that idea and you're like, oh, I just need to bounce this off of somebody, I actually have a free 30-minute call with me. This is not a sales call, not a discovery call, not a trick call. Like literally book it, and 30 minutes we will like just dive into your idea, and you will walk away with so many tangible next steps and connections. So you can actually book that at arialeighty.com/core-women, and you'll see a special link that is literally just for Core Women followers.
Awesome. And I will put that in the copy when this posts as well. Thank you so much for that. That is terrific. Now, I'm going to tell you where to follow Aria on Instagram, on Twitter, arialeighty.com, and check out her podcast, Glitter Mindset.
Thank you for joining us on the Core Women podcast with Dr. Summer Watson. We're so glad you're here and would love to connect more with you. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Core Women, and on Twitter at Core Women 1. For more about Core Women and Dr. Watson, visit corewomen.com. Want more support and resources for amazing women like you? Great! Join Dr. Watson and Jen Fontanilla at the Life, Love, and Money Collective, a Core Women production that aids in understanding the key traits that might be getting in the way of living a life that you are absolutely passionate about. Connect with Summer and Jen and find out more at thelifeloveandmoney.com.